December 13th, 2023, our last meeting of this year. We'll call to order. Let's start with minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve our minutes from November 15th, 2023, or corrections? Anybody want to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Regent Lane. Do I have a second?
I can second.
All right, thank you. All in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, great. Introductions. Does anybody have any introductions for the board at this meeting?
Have an introduction.
All right, President Flanders.
I want to introduce our new interim, a brand new interim VP for Workforce Development. And that is Rita Johnson. Rita, stand up. We are so excited to have her back and shepherding our Workforce Development Unit. Rita worked for me for a number of years, and I was always so pleased when I was off base. She never said, "You're wrong." She always said, "I've got questions." In fact, I have several questions. So thank you, Rita. Welcome.
Any other introductions? Okay. Move on to the chair report. One, I just want to say why the reason why several of us have our computers or screens open, which is a little different than what you're used to seeing. We're trying to do our part for sustainability and saving the earth. And so we're not printing off the big, thick board books and mailing them out every week. And so they're electronic, which is why everybody's got their computer stuff. I just didn't want you to think we had a lot of email to get to. So as true as that might be also. But that this would be our board books that are sitting in front of us. I also just wanted to welcome back in person President Linton. I know you've been having to be very cautious about where you're out in public and how many people you can be around and how many hands you can shake. And I know how much you love being out and about and around people. And we're grateful to have you back. We're grateful for your leadership at Kansas State University. And we're really glad to be seeing you here again. And congratulations on your battle of cancer. And that's all I got for the chair report. I want to wish everybody happy holidays too, and congratulate you on a great semester that we've had so far. All right, Blake Flanders, President CEO report.
All right. I recently, actually yesterday, attended the National Council of State Legislators in DC, and they met. I attended with Representative Howe from Salina. Had a great discussion with a number of states, and we discussed access and affordability and cost drivers of higher ed and how we might be able to get some of those costs under control and just general affordability. So it was really had a good session there. I'm also pleased to report that our education deans continue to look at how the programs can improve as they address literacy. And they're on a pathway to develop 2 specific courses in the curriculum that address the science of reading, as well as pairing that with an assessment so that we can be sure that the teachers we're producing are ready to go as soon as they hit the ground. And then obviously we need to do additional training for those teachers that are out in the field to continue to keep them current. But I want to just tell you that our deans are taking a leadership role in this space, and it's really good to see. We've also continued to make movement on the system-wide general education framework. So we've, I want to thank Carla Wiscombe and Samantha Christie Dangermond for all their work, looking at the number of exceptions that we have and making an assessment there and making some recommendations to me, who ultimately has to make that decision. And so we're one step now closer to full implementation of the board's system-wide general education framework. And I think that's going to be really positive. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, President Flanders. Any questions? All right, hearing none. Council of Faculty Senate Presidents, Donald von Bergen, come on up. Oh. Come on up. You gotta flip. There we go. Now we can.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Rolfe. I am not Don von Bergen.
We
My
figured
name-
that out.
My name is Elodie Jones. I'm from Fort Hays State University, and I am the Faculty Senate President. I am reporting for Don. He is at his daughter's hooding ceremony for her doctorate
Oh, that's
program.
great.
So
Congratulations.
congratulations to him and his family. So over the last month, the Council of Faculty Senate Presidents has really dug in and looked at Faculty Member of the Year, which we were charged with. We were looking at specific criteria. We were just trying to create a compatible tool to put all of that in so it's very readable for Blake to look through and approve. So then we could move forward with nominating 2 individuals from our institution. I really enjoy this process in the fact that it's for faculty by faculty, which is a different type of award than institutions typically award. We would love to have that criteria to Blake by the beginning of the year. I think that Dawn had listed January. I'm going to say maybe February would be a little bit more accurate. We also want to express our gratitude for the board listening to our request to serve and participate on the VP of Academic Affairs search. I will be serving in that role next Monday and Tuesday as those kick off with those interviews. A message from Don. He said he missed the last K-Board meeting because he was at the Association of Public and Land Grant Universities conference in Seattle, Washington. He said that the most presented topic and discussed with the conference was AI or artificial intelligence, which probably isn't surprising. As a panel member described it, it is a storm brewing, referring to the onslaught of vendors that are inundating our universities and the products they're offering us. He said that he believes this is a time that we can maximize potential with AI rapidly evolving and how we can work together as institutions and KBOR to discuss topics such as policies and vendors. He said it's limitless regarding the innovation, and he said that it's an opportunity for us to discuss recruitment, enrollment, finances, human resources, and more with regard to AI and how it will affect us as we move forward. Any questions?
Thank you. Thanks for standing in. Did a great job. Okay. Student Advisory Committee, President Stout, come on up.
Good afternoon, Chair Rolfe, Regents, Presidents, and Chancellor. It is great to be with you all again here in Topeka. So we just wrapped up our meeting of the Students Advisory Committee. We met from around 12 to 1-ish, and a big part of our meeting was just spent kind of looking in the rear view, reflecting on wrapping up a semester and our roles as student body presidents and as our time on the Students Advisory Committee. And so while there's a fair workload that comes with our roles, we were able to kind of think about some of the highlights that do come with it, whether that be sitting in the boxes at football games or just getting to know one another from around the state. There's definitely been some cool perks of the job that I think we can easily forget about during the busy times of the semester. Speaking of busy times of the semester, as you may well know, it is finals week this week. So if you're looking through the crowd behind me and you're wondering where the students are at, I told them to get out of here, go work on their finals, their papers, the stuff they were still needing to get done. But I do want to thank them for making the time. They were all present for our meeting, and they will all be present for our breakfast in the morning at 8:30 a.m. So kind of looking forward to that. We're excited to get to know you all a little bit better. Hopefully you get to know us as well. Then we also just look forward to speaking with you about some of the things that are on students' hearts and minds throughout the state of Kansas. So with that, that's really all I have to talk with you about today. But I look forward to seeing each of you bright and early in the morning. So I'll stand for questions if you have any.
Any questions? We are also looking forward to breakfast, one of the best ones we have all year. You guys are great, and we thank you for your service to universities, and we'll look forward to doing that bright and early at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you all. Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays. All right, let's move into committee reports. Regent Lane, Academic Affairs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Before I give our BASC report, I'd like to invite Provost Tabor to the mic to make some comments. And as you're coming, Provost, he didn't know I was going to do this. This is our last meeting with Provost Tabor being on our K-Board team at K-State, and he has been an invaluable leader in the area of academic performance and leading, and also has been willing to do some mentoring and coaching me to give different perspectives on how we might do our work. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the board for your tremendous service to KBOR and to K-State, and offer you a moment to share some words.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It's been such an honor to serve at Kansas State University for 6 years, 5.5 actually. It's been a wonderful time at K-State. We've gone through we all have gone through some difficult times through this, with a pandemic, with financial challenges, with enrollment downturns, but things are really looking good at Kansas State University now. And I do want to say it's been a pleasure to work with the system, with KBOR over this time. And I think the state of Kansas in higher education is really moving in a good direction. And I'm really excited about where it's going. I was saying earlier that I believe firmly that universities are the most incredible engines of transformation that mankind has ever invented. And the work that we do together to provide individual opportunities for our students and collective opportunities for our state, region, and world are just, it's just such important work. We need to continue to do it. This is the reason why investment in higher education is a public good as well as a private good. It's critically important that we understand that society is transformed even as we provide opportunities to individuals. So it's been my life work. I really have enjoyed that. I am now going to go back into music, which was my earliest passion, but I continue to be passionate about higher ed. I'll be looking to see what K-State continues to do, as well as the work in the state of Kansas in higher ed. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. BASC today approved the final academic year 2022 performance reports. You'll have a full list on our agendas in January. This is a pretty momentous time because it represents a sunsetting of our previous process and movement toward a performance process that will focus on implementation of best practices across the system. Those would include math pathways, co-requisite math and English. We'll be looking at professional development for faculty and staff and academic degree maps. So you will see in the reports in January the academic reports for year 2022. And as you look at those, keep in mind that we were very much aware that this is the conclusion of this round of reports as we made our recommendations for your consideration. We also had updates from Emporia State, Fort Hays State, and K-State on the student success playbooks. This was our first attempt to start talking about our support metrics for Pillar 1, and we'll continue to evolve those and have the other 3 universities reporting in January. Sam Christie Dangermond gave the qualified admissions report, and we were pleased to know that no university exceeded the 10% gap on admitting students with exceptions. Carla Wiscombe provided an academic affairs update and reviewed the new performance agreements. The performance agreements that I just mentioned will be focused on our future agendas. And our new standing item was good news celebrations, and we heard about a lot of wonderful things that are happening at our universities, including the tremendous value that our universities provide to the community this time of year as we gather and celebrate the holidays. In addition, Mr. Chair, I just wanted to mention that I had the opportunity to represent the board at the Education Commission of the State's Winter Commissioners Meeting. A tremendous meeting focused on early childhood and credential transparency. There's a lot of really important work happening across the country. And it was very rewarding to hear frequently folks from other states mentioning the work in Kansas and celebrating the KBOR team and under your leadership, Dr. Flanders. So wanted to be sure and report that. If you're not aware, Governor Kelly is the chair of the Education Commission of the States, and she set forth an initiative to focus on educational access for justice-impacted individuals. So Kansas was really in the spotlight, and I think everybody would have been proud to know that our work is getting recognized. So that concludes my report.
Any questions for Regent Lane? Yes, Regent Winter. You have a question? Or comment?
I actually have a question for Blake on.
Yeah.
What the topic he talked about. Is this a good time or you want me to hold it?
Go ahead.
Blake, thank you for telling us about the NCSL forum. I'm curious, obviously, there have been aspects of higher education that have been in the public realm the last week or two. Some criticisms coming from congressional folks, et cetera, et cetera. To what extent could you identify the general mood or tone that you picked up, if you could pick it up, from state legislators about their attitudes and approach to higher education?
Yeah, so I think it seems like when you get inside that beltway, the conversation can be different. And I would tell you that the events that had happened the last few days with the testimonies before Congress was on top of mind for a number of individuals there, because many staffers from the Hill were also in that mix. I felt the mood towards higher ed was very positive at the conference. I will say it could be a little self-selecting because you've selected to go there and discuss those issues, but certainly I was pleased to go with Representative Howe, and it was really a situation where I thought people were really seeking solutions and not, trying to demonize each party.
Good, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Regent Winter. Any other questions? I want to just also join Provost Tabor. Thank you for your service to our system and to K-State, and congratulations. I look forward to hearing the music you create. Be excellent to one another, my friend. All right. Good work.
Party on, dude.
Party on, dude. All right.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Get down with that.
We might as well.
That's right. I think that's actually Wayne's World. We cross-referenced. Both work though. All right. Regent Benson. Fiscal affairs
Mr.
on.
Chair, Fiscal Affairs and Audit Committee report. We conducted our agenda call on November 28th and met again this morning. Took a little bit of time to hear from Associate Director Jennifer Armour from Academic Affairs about EPSCoR, state funding, and how the institutions are advised about those grant opportunities and make sure they are aware of them. Had a team presentation on the university's space utilization data and how it will be used to inform campus planning, and a new modeling tool that will be rolled out in spring 2024. Director Bristow started the discussion with an overview of the board's capital renewal initiative and maintenance assessment. Heard from Dennis Strait and Joe Bellato, both consulting architects, and Cindy Ferrier, our own Director of Data Research and Planning, whose team helped with the merging of HR, finance, and facilities data, which was no easy task. It was pointed out this morning that of the 5,400 universities and colleges across the nation, a whopping 3 have no deferred maintenance backlog. So it kind of puts it in perspective. So while our system is not alone with the backlog of deferred maintenance projects, what came through in their presentation was that our capital renewal initiative is quite unique. The scale of what we are taking on, bringing together state and university monies across a system of universities, is worthy of highlight. Although Chad will present this afternoon on the growing backlog of the project's price tag, we know that students, faculty, and staff are feeling the positive effects of the additional maintenance work and improvements that have been done or soon to be underway. While we're in year 2 of the maintenance assessment, the partnership with the governor and legislature has proven key to launching the initiative, and we're hopeful that the state funding in year 3 will be forthcoming. Our advocacy for this initiative is so much easier from the data the campus staff are collecting on the buildings and their systems, so we thank the many dozens of staff and consultants involved in this venture. We also received an overview of the capital budgeting process, the status of the university campus plans, as well as a historical timeline and financial status update on the Educational Building Fund. The full board will receive Chad's presentation on the facility condition update and building inventory this afternoon. Great information and look forward to that. And finally, we reviewed the items on the board's agenda related to fiscal affairs and audit. The committee revisited the state university's housing and food service proposals for fiscal year 2025. And know we're going to be discussing that a little bit more. We were provided additional analysis and context for the proposed housing rates. And we recommend the universities and the students in their concerted efforts to soften the cost increases while confronting inflation and using their reserves appropriately to address necessary facility and equipment needs. The Fiscal Affairs and Audit Committee approved all of the action items on today's discussion agenda and look forward to the presentations this afternoon on several specific projects and the overview from Director Bristow. That is my report, Mr. Chair.
Any questions for Regent Benson? So they also found that 3 out of 5,400 lied on their paperwork. So a little rough.
You would almost have to.
Just online. Yeah, you get deferred maintenance online too, trust me. The moment you pay for something, deferred maintenance starts rolling up. Okay. Sorry, I thought that'd be funnier than it was. Just too true, I guess. Yeah, it sounded good in my head. Okay, let's get back to Wayne's World. Governance Committee. This morning, the Governance Committee met and after approving the minutes of its November meeting, received an update from General Counsel John Yeary, Esquire, on the draft of a policy to standardize the notice requirements for non-reappointment for our state university non-tenured and non-tenured track employees. Staff has continued to receive and consider feedback from the field and plans to have a final version for the committee to consider in January. Any policy amendments will then be placed on a future board agenda for the full board's consideration. Next, the committee reviewed and approved staff recommendations to streamline and improve the board member conflict of interest disclosure form and the annual process for submission. And finally, we heard Kansas State's Campus Safety and Security Report and approved a restricted access area request in accordance with board policy. Any questions for me on governance? All right, that's great. We're now going to move towards consent agenda, and I want to allow my friend, Vice Chair Ice, to make the motion to approve consent agenda.
Thank you, sir. I would move for approval, but before we move towards a vote, I think it is appropriate to note item 2 of the Board Committee for Academic Affairs about our Regent distinguished professor. I would yield the chance for our very able and outstanding chair to make the comments if you would prefer, Regent Lane. Many years ago, the legislature and the governor at the time approved funds for us to have Regent distinguished professors. That process then allows for every 5 years that we affirm that. So Dr. Richt of Kansas State came before us this time. I would tell you we were presented with an outstanding resume, a clear leader in the field of veterinary science, animal health. Too many things for me to be able to capably suggest, other than, as one of our committee members said, he seems like the very type of person or professor we would want to get this distinction. So again, I would like to note that as part of my motion.
Thank you. I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Do I have any further discussion on consent agenda? Take a vote. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Thank you very much. We're through consent. We're moving right along. Let me flip the page to discussion here. All right, academic affairs. We're going to act on a request to approve 4 new system-wide transfer courses. And Carla, if you'd mind coming up. Thanks again for stepping in the interim role. You're doing a great job. Running so fast, you rolled your ankle.
That's right. This is the exciting part of the work of the Transfer Council. We bring to you courses that we have had the faculty write outcomes, and we're recommending approval for inclusion into system-wide transfer. The courses can be found at the bottom of page 48 of your agendas. 2 of those courses are included in the system-wide elementary ed associate degree that we've been working on and will be implemented in the fall. Technology for teachers and elementary PE and health for elementary teachers. The chemistry course was brought back. They were looking at the Gen Chem for non-majors. And what we realized is in between the chemistry course for majors and the chemistry course for non-majors, we need a course that's for the allied health majors. So the new course for that is a combination of those skills and added things that the need for the allied health, and then the business communications course. The transfer council does the work. Most of the time, you can't get a lot of work out of a group that's 20 people, but I would say that our transfer council is one of the most effective groups that we have, that I've been a part of anyway. And I just appreciate their work, and the faculty and staff and the KBOR staff that appreciates it. But this is the exciting part. All of our work comes at this point, and then we start all over again with the courses that the faculty have recommended for the next Kansas Core Outcomes Group in October of 2024. Questions?
Any questions or additional comments? These are pretty simple. Great work. A lot of work. It's simple at this point. Like you said, a lot of work goes into making these things. So
Straightforward, but not.
straightforward, but not simple. That's right. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Glad to make the motion, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Regent Lane.
Second.
All right. We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Great job.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next up, Elaine, you'd like to come up? We have the fiscal year 2025 housing and food service rate adjustment proposal submitted by state universities. This is our second reading and final. We will take a vote. Regent Benson, do you want to say anything before Elaine
Yeah,
lays it out?
if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, and as you mentioned, this is a second reading, and if someone isn't a regular watcher of fiscal affairs committee meetings, which I don't know why they wouldn't be, I think we're a pretty lively bunch. I first want to make sure everybody understands that these adjustment recommendations weren't just passed through without discussion. I think our fiscal officers would agree with that. They were asked a lot of tough questions about the methodology and how the rate increases were, the numbers came to. First of all, was it absolutely imperative that they need to be increased? And then if so, what does that number look like? So I appreciate them and the due diligence that they did and we did in considering those. Secondly, I think it's important to point out that they're not necessarily across the board increases. There are different levels available, different options available, and we appreciate the institutions offering those, because some of the options didn't increase. And so really it's related to student preference and what they're looking for. So it's not an across the board increase. Thirdly, Regent Lane asked a good question at our last meeting that we spent some time on today as well. And that's, what is that tipping point? You know, we talk a lot about affordability and making sure that Kansas families can continue accessing higher education. So we were assured by our institutions that they're constantly benchmarking themselves against peer organizations to make sure that the prices for anything are not out of whack. So I hope that assures anybody that we're still looking at that information and making sure that our institutions are on par with their peers around the state and around the country. And Elaine found some additional information as well to help justify some of those recommendations. So just wanted to kind of tee that up before Elaine talked.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
you.
So there isn't much more that I would add other than in fiscal affairs, we discussed a little bit of local context. Actually, the Institute for Policy and Social Research, led by Dr. Ginther at the University of Kansas, publishes the annual Kansas Statistical Abstract. And one of the things that they publish is U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development data on county level rental rates in Kansas. And so we talked a little bit about that this morning and how that might translate or provide a little context for what the universities are proposing in their rates. So I would leave it at that and see if anyone else has questions.
I was very glad you did that. I thought it was helpful to be able to understand why we would have differences from institution to institution. So thank you all for doing that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Elaine.
Questions for Elaine or Regent Benson on these? I think we got most of our questions answered. No, I think we also found out K and K State are beginning to work together on a buying consortium or group too. I know there was follow-up to that for Region Ice.
Yes, it was broader than the two. They have a purchasing council across the institutions.
Okay, great.
So speaking for myself, I was very happy to see that.
Yep.
I think there's great potential going forward in a way we can dynamically use our funds well in a way that supports our mission.
Journey of 1,000 miles begins with single step. That's great work. Okay, other questions or comments on this? Region Lane.
Thank you very much. I just want to say thank you, Elaine, for this additional information. It did really help put in perspective that we're not at the tipping point yet. So we recognize how expensive everything is, but it is everywhere. So thank you for that.
Anybody else? All right. Do I hear a motion on this issue?
I will so move, Mr. Chair.
Regent Benson,
I would second.
thank you. We have first and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, that's great. Thank you, Elaine. Appreciate it. You know, you prepared us well when don't have that many questions. All right, Chad Bristow coming up. He's going to give us the university facilities report for the system, but I do just want to congratulate you and thank you for your stewarding of this process and the resources and the way that you've been able to do it in a collaborative way with the campuses. And so that's a yeoman's work, and you've done a great job with it. And I just want to celebrate that and tell you I appreciate it. So go on.
Thank you, Chair Rolfe.
Go on.
And I want to just echo what our consultant team mentioned in the fiscal affairs and audit presentation. And they really identified this board as doing something very similar to what you just described. I mean, you've set the standard in a collaborative and supportive method of improving facilities. And so I think that's a real key to the long-term success of this initiative. So with that, discussion item number 2 on page 77 is to receive the 2023 State University Facilities Report. And this report builds on the statutory requirement to report on facilities and space utilization every 2 years. So this expands that requirement to annual report. And we think that that interval is most productive to maintaining good current data to inform campus planning. And I want to also thank all the university staff, the consultant teams, KBOR staff who've laid the groundwork for a system that, although it's a steep climb in this first couple of years to set up these systems, I think we're going to start realizing some real efficiencies and some time savings here in the next year and as we go on. So start here with the slides to tick through an overview of the results. Let's see if I can get this. Okay, there we go. Keystone here, the board's governing function and responsibility to maintain the physical assets of the state universities resulted in a renewed focus on deferred maintenance and facilities renewal in 2019 and did some milestone studies, laid a new policy framework to support a maintenance assessment for facilities, which is a new idea and more in a best practice strategic approach to address deferred maintenance. And moving to 2023, considering 2023, fiscal year 2023, year 1 of the facilities initiative because of the funding and the maintenance assessment requirements that started that off. Part of this report is to consolidate expenditure data, building inventory, space inventory, and even utilities information. So we've got really everything, one-stop shop for facilities information in this report now, and look forward to continuing that. Educational Building Fund overview, the board approved an allocation of $41 million from the EBF in FY23. The universities have reported spending 37 million of that. And they would spend it all, but projects are multi-fiscal year affairs. There's planning, construction, closeout. These projects are not easy and they take time. And so you'll see here, there is a carryover, but that carryover amount is committed to projects in the total project budgets of these capital projects. And there is also a small amount of that that's tagged for emergencies. When you have a lot of deferred maintenance, you have a lot of surprises. And so it wouldn't be prudent to not have some money set aside for emergent issues. Deferred maintenance dilemma. I think we've seen various versions of this graph, but what this illustrates is that just spending the educational building fund amounts for the next 20 or so years results in a significant increase in the backlog of building system need typically. I mean, we're talking fire alarms, roofs, building envelopes, plumbing, electrical, the whole gamut. So the board has the concept in board policy now of establishing a maintenance assessment up to 2% reinvestment annually. And that 2% is of the estimated replacement value of the academic buildings. And currently the inventory represents 498 academic buildings or mission critical buildings. So you can see in order to get to there, the board a few years ago passed a gradual increase incrementally, starting at 0.25% up to 2% in 2028, requiring the universities to basically spend that 2% every year to keep deferred maintenance and current maintenance at bay. So the maintenance assessment here is in 2023 was based on a $7.72 billion replacement value of the 498 mission critical buildings. 0.25% of that was 19.3 million. And with the benefit of the legislature and governor's partnership and providing for the $35 million capital renewal initiative, that was satisfied. That $35 million requires a dollar match from the universities. Moving into FY 2024, we'll see though that a 7.6% construction inflation increase has resulted in a bump up of our estimated replacement value of those mission critical buildings. So you're talking $8.31 billion now. Now we've stepped up one increment to 0.5% of replacement value. And so the maintenance assessment for FY 24 will be $41.57 million. As a reminder though, we do have a $20 million appropriation for the renewal initiative in 24, again, requiring that dollar for dollar match. So year 2 is in good shape. The request for FY 25 is 20 million again. So we're hopeful that will bring a good success and a foundation of funding to help with the maintenance assessment in 25. Along the way and in parallel to that SGF for the Capital Renewal Initiative appropriation, we also received a building demolition fund of $10 million for FY 23, FY 24, and again requesting that in 25. And a high level overview of the benefit of that fund so far. The board has approved allocations to the universities in total to date of $16.5 million. That is basically setting the stage to take 500,000 square feet of mission critical, obsolete mission critical facility footprint offline, represents 20 buildings. And our facility system has a pretty granular cost information component to it. And we were able to, by building system in each building, assign an estimated deferred maintenance cost for each system. In total, then, taking these buildings offline, we're avoiding $80 million in estimated deferred maintenance costs. I don't have a slide for this, but I also want to say, based on some information requests that the universities responded to, as the universities are all updating master plans in this next year or two, they are preliminarily identifying that almost 40 buildings may be candidates for obsolete structure status. And they think that in total, in today's dollars, that represents about $250 million of deferred maintenance avoided if they can get those projects funded.
Hey, Chad, can I ask you one clarifying question on that? So if you were looking at our assessment based on an inflated cost of construction, have you added the recent inflation of that into that 80 million, or would it actually be higher?
It would actually be higher.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so
So Chad, have the universities in your mind been able to disseminate some of this information in their communities. I'm thinking, every time we talk about taking buildings offline, there's always groups that have a lot of nostalgia about the building, and just this amount of savings that we're going to be really saving Kansas and taxpayers, I think would be good information for communities to have. We could boil it down into a framework that's easily consumable.
Yes, great point. And that's an ongoing effort. I mean, to have a meeting of the minds about this. The campuses are special places. I mean, it's totally understandable that, all of the buildings have a meaning to someone. And so, but taken in total, there's a lot of challenges here that need to be addressed. And so I will say, I understand that this is posted online. Everyone has a printed copy. All the board has a printed copy, and this information should be available on KBOR's website as well. So facilities condition, this goes back to that graph we saw of, the increasing backlog over 20 years, just, exponentially. In 2022, to show you how things have progressed, the mission critical buildings had an average letter grade. We've translated what we call facility condition index, where you divide the renewal needs by the replacement cost of the building. We've translated that to a letter grade so that's a little more easily understood. We had an average letter grade of C. The board's goal is to get those mission critical buildings to a state of good repair, call that a B+. And we had an estimated backlog of deferred maintenance of $1.2 billion. This year, you can see, we still have that letter grade of C. The buildings are 1 year older, and our estimated backlog, or basically the renewal cost to get to a state of good repair, has increased to $1.3 billion. I think this is important to understand, that even though the increased amount of funding over the last couple of years, and hopefully to continue, doesn't move the needle on some of these metrics, there is a real observable benefit on the campuses. And I'll just repeat an anecdote that KU has shared. They shared it with the Joint Committee on State Building Construction yesterday, that there are a number of service requests for leaks because of their improved roofing system, or roofing program to improve roofing systems has measurably decreased. And so that's a positive way to measure the benefit of these new funds and this program. It's going to take, it took many, many decades to get to this point. It's going to take time to reverse this. So I don't think we should be too concerned that we can't move the needle on that letter grade in 1 year, but it is moving in the right direction.
I think that's a really important point, is things take a while to get to where they are. They take a while to recover. It's you're making progress. So thank you.
Again, you'll notice certain graphs in the book. This is just a way to visualize the number of square feet of each university has, and mission critical. K-State obviously has the most buildings, and it represents the most square footage, and it also represents the highest renewal costs. So stands to reason. One of the interesting aspects that I think is unique to this initiative is to bring space inventory right up with the facilities condition. So everybody hears about deferred maintenance and facilities condition, but this, if you think of that as building by building, think of space inventory as room by room. And if you build a model of, hey, how is every room utilized in this building, you have a real insight into what to do with that building. What do you need to renovate it? Do you need to upgrade the systems? Has it outlived its functionality for the mission of the institution? So with data research and planning's help, with our consultants' help, we've built a model that all of the universities now are reporting space in the a consistent standard approach. And we're also currently working on a space needs analysis tool that we'll have ready in the spring, that some of the universities who don't have a sophisticated space software can utilize to understand and compare what spaces they're making do with versus what spaces they aspire to have, so they can compare whether or not a certain space needs to be remodeled, or a certain building needs to be raised, and a new building that better suits the classroom needs or laboratory needs, let's say, put in its place. So this is exciting potential here. This graph just shows you a snapshot of, currently there's 1,149 total facilities in use. Again, that 498 are, we'll call mission critical, academic and research. That represents 55% of the square footage of the whole portfolio. Average age is 51 years. With the circle graph, you can see that 70% plus 20%, the auxiliary, 90% of these university buildings in use are on state ground. It's state-owned on state property, and then a small 10% is developer-owned, leased, or endowment or foundation-owned. Again, just various ways to visualize the mission-critical portfolio here. And then finally, we've added campus utilities because another aspect of the benefit of the demolition building fund, you can quantify a deferred maintenance avoided as one benefit. But what we haven't factored in yet, and we are working on a way to do this, is to quantify the operational cost savings. And so you can see here as a foundation of that work to happen before the next report, the university's reported $67 million in utility expenditures in 2023. And I mean, you can understand when you think that the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical, those are the highest needs in terms of the building systems that need to be renewed. And you can immediately understand their contribution to efficient operation and realize that the needle can really be moved on this in the future as well. So it's good to incorporate that in a comprehensive way and understand facilities and space and buildings all together. So it's exciting to have this report and the system set up to more easily bring this to you every year now. So that I'd be happy to try to address any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I have I believe I also post this in the physical meeting as well. If you go back to the slide of space utilization, I'm going to refocus that area. And I was frankly surprised about the classroom space that all of our buildings actually accommodate. And I guess I was educated that it's a share space, and that's why we are able to utilize only 2.9% of all the buildings for classroom utilization. I do want to understand how we can do that, the shared space. I guess the presentation also suggested that we look at shared spaces for offices. The regular industry, the private industry is moving towards taking away boundaries and walls for every person having an individual office, rather looking at a co-working space model for anybody who doesn't really host a bunch of papers in their offices. So that's something that we may want to utilize, within the space that we are investing on. I think I was given some information on non-assigned, about 38%, almost 39%. I want to understand a little more about what is that percentage of space that we are not able to really identify, if that's okay with us.
Yes, Regent Parasker, I can follow up and show you a breakout of those categories and try to put more context around what goes into that category.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chad.
I would also note there several of the universities are doing projects to develop shared workspace, and so would be interesting in next year's report to kind of see how those projects are working.
Other questions or comments for Chad? Chad. Yes, Regent Winter.
At the risk for those who were there with us this morning of repeating, I'll try to be more efficient. So if I've made my notes correctly, the assessment for the upcoming fiscal year is $41.6 million as it's been adjusted for cost increases.
Correct.
I think it's important that on the one hand, I certainly agree that this program of facilities renewal is very important to us. We can't ignore this. It's very important for us to face into this and you all have done a good job in this. At the same time, I think we have to recognize that we have an obligation to identify all of the unmet spending needs in the universities. So not only do we have a capital improvement spending need, we have spending needs for student success programs. We have spending needs for faculty research, for compensation, for salaries, on and on and on. Just those hard things to run a university. And at some point, we're going to have to recognize that, for example, this 41.6 million is aspirational, and we need to remember that. But we don't want to be having, we can't figure out, we can't spend all of our increased funding just for building maintenance. We're going to have to allocate to all those other needs. So I hope that we recognize that when it comes to the actual budget making, we line up all of these competing needs, these competing sorrows as they are, and do our best to make those judgments. Didn't call for an answer, just want to make that commentary.
Thank you, Regent Winter. Other questions or comments? I point out everybody that you do have the physical book. Again, something that shows up as a binder, but it takes a tremendous amount of work to show up in front of us in such an organized fashion. So great data, great detail available to us here as well. So don't miss that. Anything you'd want to add about this, Chad? Okay. I don't think we have, I think we just received that. And then we need to act on the allocation of the EBF appropriation. So do you want to move on to that?
Certainly. Discussion item number 3 on 78 of the books is to approve an allocation of the Educational Building Fund for fiscal year 2025 to the universities in the amount of $62 million for rehab and repair projects to mission critical facilities. And I'll just note, as it came up before, the distribution amounts to the universities are based on a standard formula developed back in 2007. It's largely based upon a square footage of each university's mission critical buildings as a proportion to the system-wide total, and with a minor adjustment factor for the complexity of the facilities. For instance, research facilities, lab facilities that require more maintenance and upkeep due to their technological building systems.
Yes, Blake Flanders.
Yes, so I wanted to be sure. I think we put in place too that there's incentives for shrinking your footprint. It used to be if you took a facility offline, you actually lost EBF money. So you'd clarify for the board on that piece.
Correct, President Flanders. It is no longer required to allocate the EBF in this proportionate formula. But the board has chosen to continue this with the Educational Building Fund and no penalty for the universities that take mission critical portfolio offline. And I would also point out that the Capital Renewal Initiative funds are also being distributed, allocated according to this formula.
A great example of us getting out of our own way. Questions or comments? ABF, okay. Do you want to show us the breakdown, or do we just?
So on page 78.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there is by university, you can see the percentage. And if you'll look at your university facilities report, if you're interested, you can see that pretty much tracks with respect to the inventory and the square footage of each university very closely.
Okay. You guys can see it on page 78. It's also, it's on page 78 on your screen or on your book. All right. Do I have anybody who wants to make a motion to approve the appropriation as allocated?
I move to approve.
All right. Thank you, Regent Benson.
Second.
All right. It's been motioned and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Great job, Chad. I'm going to call a break. I know you got more to do, so we'll start back with you at the podium. But why don't we take a 15-minute break and gavel in just after 2:30. All right, thank you.
I mean, I came today.
All right, I need to clear the record, correct the record from something earlier. Let it be known that Party On Dudes is from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, and Party On Wayne, Party On Garth is from Wayne's World. I'm glad we could clear that up before the end of the year. And I would encourage everybody in this room to never challenge Carl Ice on a movie reference, even though I was a film major in college. All right, let's get Chad back up to the podium. And yes, it needs to be in the minutes for sure.
I think not.
All right, Chad, take it away. I think we're on item 4.
Item 4, yes, on page 79. I'll just note that Wichita State is going to provide updates to the board momentarily. So I will just introduce these next 2 discussion items with respect to the request that is associated with each. So item 4 on page 79 is a request from WSU to amend their FY 2024 capital plan, increase the budget and revise the project name to the NIAR Hub for Advanced Manufacturing and Research, formerly the NIAR Technology and Innovation Building, and increase the total project cost of the budget from 60.2 million up to 69 million. Item number 5 then on page 80 is a request from WSU is a request to accept real property from the city of Wichita by the University of Kansas and Wichita State University jointly to construct the Wichita Biomedical Campus.
Thank you. President Muma, you want to? Yeah.
Good to see you all today. Thank you for the opportunity. First thing, though, I want to just announce that our volleyball team won the National Invitational Volleyball Championship last night.
Hey, that's great.
They swept UT El Paso in that final game, so we're really proud of them. All right, this is, as Chad said, it's on page 79. If you go to the next slide, or I guess I can do it too. So as he said, we're increasing the budget from 60 and some change to 69 million. I think you all have technically approved the name change to the Hub for Advanced Manufacturing and Research earlier this year, but it's not on the capital improvement plan listed that way. So that's also part of it. And because the change is because of estimations and design development cost increases and construction costs. So that's why we're here today. And I believe that you all wanted to hear a little bit more about this project to explain how we got here. And you may remember last year, actually this time last year, we were awarded one of 21 EDA grants. And you can see where we fit into that. Ours is around advanced manufacturing, smart manufacturing. It's a $51 million grant. And it's going to allow us to bring together a coalition of companies and other parties in South Kansas to help them act upon increases in advanced manufacturing, smart manufacturing processes in their businesses and industry. And the reason why we got this is because we've been working for more than 35 plus years on various different programs, and you can see some of those here. This one was focused really in our advanced materials program that we have at the university, advanced machining and those sorts of things. And we've been working on that for a long time, and the EDA saw that in the university. I also want to let you know that our expenditures this year in research topped 260 million, and we're expecting it to be over 380 million this next fiscal year. Here's a rendering of the facility. So it's going to be built east of the business school, Woolsey Hall, on our campus, 150,000 square foot facility, leveraging the expertise that we have also developed along the way with the Smart Factory. Again, this is meant to help business and industry, particularly small businesses, to adopt smart manufacturing, advanced manufacturing processes in their work. And then here's the coalition and the primary areas that will be focused on: additive manufacturing, future factory, industry 4.0, smart manufacturing for short, advanced machining, hybrid technical training, all together to help these companies make that transformation. So back to this slide. This is what the request is, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that update. Any questions or comments?
Chair Ralph, I have a
Yes.
comment. Congratulations on that grant, for the phase 2 grant, and good work happening, especially on the staff, smart manufacturing help for the industry. I want to also tie into the CHIPS grant that's coming up, how these initiatives would really help manufacturing companies that will spur up in our area. So
Yeah,
good
we're
job.
hoping to leverage this with those programs that are coming up for opportunities.
Any other questions or comments? Great work. So a good looking building.
Yeah, it's going to be
Um,
pretty awesome.
Okay, we need to vote on amending this capital improvement plan project. Do I hear a motion to approve?
Let me to be the first one.
Okay, thank you very much. Do I have a second? All right,
I'll second.
we got 3 seconds.
Or
All right, we'll let Region Winter have the second on that one.
we learned in Basque, a second with 3 parts.
Second with 3 parts. All right, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, we also then have the second, this is the accept a real property from the city of Wichita,
Yeah.
both KU and Wichita State.
So yeah, this is shared jointly with the chancellor and myself. I'll just start by providing a little bit of information, background. You know that this past year and the year before, both sessions, all total, we were awarded $205 million to start this project. That's $300 million in total in downtown Wichita, a joint project with Wichita State, WSU Tech, and KU. Really very, very appreciative of all the work that you all have done to help support this, and KU, our partners at the city and the county, obviously the legislature and the governor, really all came together. Basically, the stars aligned. This really hasn't happened before. You see the objectives, really the whole idea. We thought we could do this better jointly than separately, create efficiencies, provide true interprofessional education and training, and open up opportunities for additional investments in downtown Wichita. So what we're talking about today, those 2 plots of land that you see, and it's in your board book too, but you can see it there on that slide. Phase 1, the $205 million project that we have the money for is where that arrow is. And then phase 2 is just to the right of that on the slide. Interestingly, one of the purposes of this development was to create healthcare infrastructure. And we saw this on the Innovation Campus and built that engineering infrastructure, and the businesses followed. So that's the idea here too. You have St. Francis to the north, that yellow corridor, and you have ComCare to the south, and you have the social services in between there, and then this new project. And just last week, Sedgwick County bought the land that is just adjacent to the phase 1 property to move their new mental health and substance abuse operation there. So that's what we were actually hoping for, is that we would get that additional investment and densify some of that in this corridor. So it's already happened before we even have a shovel in the ground. So really happy about that. So what we're asking for today is to approve this transfer jointly, Wichita State and KU, to eventually operate that building there, the Wichita Biomedical Campus. And I wanted just to give you an idea of where we're at. We've been working with the architecture team and the construction team. And so what you see here is an initial rendering of what this will look like. Kind of changes every day as we go down the path and further development. But you can see where phase 1 is at the corner of Broadway and Williams Street. And then phase 2 is just to the left of that, which will be more of the clinical aspect of this project in the future. And that's where the bus terminal is, and that's going to be moved further west this next year. And then you can see where it relates to WSU Tech School, the Osteopathic Medical School, and Trust Bank Arena, and if you're familiar with downtown Wichita. This is just another view looking down Broadway. So it's a pretty large building that you'll see popping up out of the ground. This is looking east off of Williams Street. And the culinary school is there to the left. This is Broadway Street looking north. So you can see how substantive this is. And then this is looking from the east of it west down Williams Street. And just to give you an idea of what it looks like from Kellogg, if you're driving down Kellogg, you can see the building right there and a little closer view of that. So it's going to be a very consequential new structure downtown that is going to be transformational for our community and the work what we do in healthcare, and hopefully advance that work going forward. So any questions you might have at this point?
Questions or comments on this?
Doug, did you want to?
Yeah, we, President Muma presented at Greater Wichita Partnerships Annual Meeting this last week. And there's continued excitement about this. And it again, as a reminder, it represents the largest capital investment in the history of downtown Wichita. And I know the Wichita community is thrilled. And we continue to just hear people heralding the partnership between the two institutions here and WSU Tech in creating this space and working together to create where 1 + 1 = 3 or more. So we're really proud of that work. So thank you guys for that. So I'll make the motion. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, just again, the city has really been a good part in the county too, but the city is transferring, giving this land for this project. And that's just, wouldn't have happened without that investment from the city.
That's good. All right. So I'll make a motion to approve this. Do I have a second?
I'll second, and I think we should approve as fast as we can.
All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right. Great job. Thank you. Thank you both. Okay. Let's receive an update. Provost Bickelmeyer's here on the campus master plan for KU and KU Med Center.
Thank you very much. Campus master plan coming up.
Just a moment. He's over there.
Thank you. And I will say there's 10 minutes on this agenda and 5 minutes will be for KU Lawrence and 5 minutes will be from my colleague AJ Woodworth for the Med Center. So, and again, I appreciate that I had the opportunity to give you some more detailed background when you were at the Lawrence campus. I might not be doing this right. How do I go back to there you go. So just very quickly, as I had mentioned to you when you were visiting the Lawrence campus, and I so appreciated Chad Bristow's comments, our goal in campus master plan for the Lawrence campus for the next 10 years is to become a resilient and sustainable campus for the benefit of future generations. Our colleagues at Perkins and Will and Multi-Studio who are working with us on this campus master plan tell us that we are very rare, if not completely unique in the institutions they've been working with recently, in that we are actually not looking to scale up. We only have a couple of ideas for new buildings that relate to research and academics in the next 10 years. Really what we're primarily focusing on is concerted maintenance and repair and to become more effective and more efficient in this moment in history. So our campus master plan is built off of our campus strategic plan that articulates that we'll be an exceptional learning community that lifts each member and advances society. And it's really focused around our institutional priorities, as all AAUs would have: student success, healthy environment, communities, and research and discovery. In creating this plan, Perkins and Will and Multi-Studio worked with over 5,000 members of the KU community to first listen and to then come up with ideas, co-create, come to some consensus and synthesize around 3 particular areas: impact, engagement, and stewardship. Most importantly, as a research enterprise, one of the things that we realized in doing this work is that our physical infrastructure for research is incredibly fragmented across the campus, particularly as it relates to key areas that we are focused on in our research. So a lot of what we'll be doing is what we call kind of shuffling for the academic workforce of the post-pandemic era, where we bring people together, where we engage in hybridized work environments, and where we make sure that all of that is done so that we can fully engage with each other and community. And that gets to one of our priorities being engagement. Our goals in engagement are to create a sense of community and inclusivity as a connected band of learners, and to address that in terms of equity. And in this case, equity means as much making sure that we're taking care of the various kinds of research we do and the various kinds of academic program that we support, so that each department and each discipline has what they need. We also are primarily focused on stewardship. That means prioritizing what we have and its use, and again, possibly reducing our footprint, making sure that we take care of climate change or issues that come up from climate change, and that we address performance goals. One of those issues, for example, in climate change is that limestone doesn't adhere as well in a warmer environment as it does in a cooler environment. So those are the kinds of things we have to address, and also just looking at the landscaping that we have to make sure that it does its part to help create conducive conditions on our campus to keep heat down as much as we can, and to make our environment sustainable. We know that based on our space utilization as part of this campus master plan, that we're sitting on about 940,000 assignable square feet that we could be using if we, again, reorganize and are strategic in how we use that space. And we have $750 million in deferred maintenance. So we assume that reducing our space and using it more appropriately and more fully can help us spend our dollars on updating interiors, creating campus amenities that we know our students and faculty want, upgrading technology that we desperately need, making our campus more accessible for ADA compliance as we are on top of a hill and it's not easy to get up there, and do what we need to do to use our green space, et cetera. And bottom line is, we know that the cost of business as usual isn't sustainable for us in the long run. And so we are looking to evolve and continue to have the same or greater impact on the global community while we evolve the space that we all work in. There's three key focus areas of this kind of a design. It involves looking at our natural systems, how we create an environment for health and wellness, and how we readdress the built environment so that, again, we become more sustainable in terms of space utilization, but also how we embody carbon, and how we, again, create accessibility. So you will see on this plan very quickly that some of the things that we're looking at are how do we create a sustainable landscape framework. And so you'll see this campus master plan at the outset has a lot more going on about the outside and on our space there than necessarily you'll see in detail on the inside at this point in time. We're also trying to look at our flow of our campus and how the space is utilized to make sure that we bring people on top of the hill for reasons of engagement, and that it's a welcoming and an inclusive environment. And I'll show you one schematic to that quickly. What that means particularly is, again, we are more in buildings than we are outside of our buildings. And one of the things that our students tell us that they want to change, and this was maybe one of the strongest messages that came out of all those 5,000 interactions that Perkins and Will and Multi-Studio had. Students want to feel life on top of Mount Orion and on Jayhawk Boulevard. They want an activity plaza in front of Wesco. They want to be able to engage with for meaningful events around Wesco. You see the event pavilion there. They want to create something more of a quad and a gathering area outside. So you see shaded seating and gathering areas. And then they want to be able to showcase and exhibit to community the great things that we do. So you see an exhibit plaza there around where DICOL and the Memorial Union are, and to continue to elevate the campus gateways on either end with the Chi Omega Fountain, and of course now where the Welcome Center is. So there's a fair amount of making this an inviting space as people come onto campus. All of this is going to be driven by an implementation toolkit. Chad also mentioned about the use of data through KBOR. Perkins and Will has helped us to generate a tool and that fits with KBOR's work. And actually, this is a tool that Perkins and Will is going to be out there now providing to other institutions that they've designed it at KU. Some of the things that go into factoring that is on our mission critical facilities, particularly then again, those that are the academic core, either classrooms or research space utilization, that we are assessing all of our buildings on particular categories such as condition and performance and accessibility and adaptability, and scoring those buildings appropriately to see what their future best use is, or if there is a use for them as we move forward. To give it a little bit example of how we're going to use that data, we will have 3 strategic committees. One deals with classrooms or learning environments, another will deal with research space, and another will deal with the overall campus, and we'll assess space needs, make policy recommendations and decisions for the impact that you can see there, that usually gets to reducing footprint if we need to, better utilizing footprint, making sure we're building in appropriate technologies, and engaging overall in cost savings, time savings, and collaboration in the use of our spaces. Same true here with fostering research, as well as with looking at the larger workspaces of campus. So similar process against all. We'll focus primarily in this 10-year master plan on these 5 areas: the public realm and landscape, building resets, building renovations and additions, again, just a couple of new buildings, and then the overarching infrastructure that is the flow from West Campus through the Hill and across. So with that, it's my quick overview of where we're heading, and I turn it over to my colleague, AJ.
All right, as Provost said, my name is AJ Woodward, and are we pulling up the master plan? Very good. Okay, so this is obviously our updated master plan for KU Med Center. This ranges from 2023 to 2050. One thing I do want to just high level mention about this master plan is several years ago, we hired a design firm to actually design a master plan that is easily updated. So that way it's a living document. This document, actually, I'm able to sit down and just alter in a software. So we as a team, as a leadership team, if we decide that, we want to raise a building, or if we need to make changes to FCI on a map, we're able to do this actually basically at no cost to our university. So it's quite a tremendous implementation we've done to our campus for cost savings for constantly maintaining this document. A picture I do want to highlight here, this was put on here. This is actually the entrance to our oldest building on campus. This is Murphy Building. So it's a recent capital project where we were able to completely rip out and redo the entry because it was not ADA compliant. So obviously looks quite nice. And okay, so table of contents is where I'm going to take you today. So existing conditions of our campus, deferred maintenance. I think the provost touched on that quite a bit, as well as Chad Bristow earlier, as well as our future master planning goals for our campus. Campus extents. So the purpose of this slide is obviously we're downtown Kansas City, Kansas. But this blue line outside here, it actually shows all of the parking and then also all the property that KU Endowment also owns. So it's parking lots as well as different real estate. Building and land ownership, because it can get quite confusing on our campus downtown, I'm sure as many as you know. So the legend is at the top right here. But the important thing and notable thing to note on this slide is every building that's in white is actually a university building. And if it's on green underlay, it's university property. So something of note, this Bell Hospital is actually a ground lease. The building's owned by the hospital. And then this property right here is actually owned by the hospital, where their new Cambridge North Tower A is presently. The only privately owned building we have here is a daycare lot that is on endowment property. Okay, deferred maintenance slide. So I think it goes with me saying that we very much so appreciate the appropriations when it comes to deferred maintenance. And what this slide is it's basically taking VFA data that we did assessments across our campus and putting it on our building. So it's all the way from an A grade to an F grade. The obvious purpose is, as Chad mentioned earlier, is to get to a B+ rating. But what this helps us do is I'm a visual person, so it helps me visualize across our campus, how many buildings do we have that, could potentially be raised? And that's what we're looking at and I'll show on our future master plan, but what it starts to indicate is these red buildings, they're starting to get past that useful lifetime, and can we relocate those occupants is what we're starting to look at. Um, and then up here, the goal for us is to get to a 0.25 to 0.3 FCI, and our current campus average is a 0.36. It also shows a Wichita campus at our fairway. And then highlighting a large deferred maintenance project that we're currently underway. It's scheduled to be complete at the end of this end of 2024. This is replacing all of our boilers. It's critical infrastructure. So imagine, if you will, this energy power plant has utility tunnels running under to all of our buildings. So it's electrical, steam, chilled water. So we're replacing that so that we have proper heating and conditioning on our campus. And then the exterior skin was glass. It was rusting, falling apart, and you don't necessarily need glass all over a power plant. So we're coming back and reskinning this in more energy efficient method. And we're actually taking this from basically an F grade to a C grade with this update of this building. So this is deferred maintenance reduction, and I do want to just really big promote the building demolition fund. And this building was built back in the 1950s. So if you saw it while we were demoing this building, this was a dorm building back in the 50s, later converted to an office is what this was converted to. And over time, it just became a maintenance problem. It really wasn't set up for an office because it was very individualized. And what we ended up doing is obviously taking it down, but an investment of $1 million, $4.1 million of deferred maintenance over the next 5 to 10 years, just tremendous. And then that does not include the utilities cost, the maintenance cost, because we were constantly responding to this building, fixing leaks and issues. So this would be very much so appreciated. I'm going to show it on our future slides, additional buildings that we could remove. This is the final putback. So this is an image from our health education building from the 5th floor looking. So quite nice putback. We view, we could potentially do event space. Right now, we're putting some nice landscaping back out in that space right now. Okay, our future master planning goals. So this starts to show, so everything in white is existing to remain. On future sites, blue will be, in the legends in this top right here, is new buildings. So that'll be on future sites, and red is buildings to be demolished. So the first on the chopping block on our plan is this Olathe building. It's a 3-story building that was built long ago. Leaks all over the place, air handlers, electrical needing drastic upgrades. So what we're starting to look at is, yes, we need money for building demolition, but we need to be able to renovate space and money to be able to relocate these people into other buildings is what we're looking at. 2025 to 2040, I'm going to take you from the left to the right across our campus. So we got Olathe Boulevard, that's the southern end of our campus. We view the fitness center being past its useful life, the student center. And the student center is mostly office and classroom space, just a small couple teaching labs. This is an outpatient clinic that's just 2 stories. And these are a couple of research buildings that I'm sure you guys have heard in the news that we are building a new cancer treatment and research building. So with the construction of that new building, we can take offline old construction that is a maintenance sink and then a utilities sink in these buildings. Right across here, the RSF is an animal housing building. So the intent would be to actually put that in this new cancer treatment and research building to move all of that, demo the building. These are very energy intensive buildings for animal housing. And then this Bridenthal would be shown demo. And then right here, we are actually in schematic design right now for the cancer treatment and research building. We are looking to ground break at the fall of this year. So do deep foundations and then trying to finish up in 2026 for this project. The Brain Health Center, we recognize that neurology is another leading area of research on our campus. So shortly after the cancer treatment and research building, pending funding allocation for this, we would be proceeding on with the neurology building. And then with this, we recognize we're taking up a whole bunch of parking and we're downtown. So an additional parking garage plan. And then down here on the corner, a biorepository building. This would be central storage of blood and tissue collection. And then our 2040 to 2050 plan. We obviously, where we've demoed some buildings, we are showing the potential for new buildings. We don't have anything particularly planned right here. We are showing the capability. Maybe the health system can expand on these properties. We are showing a future building where we have demoed the Taylor building that I showed in these previous slides. And this could be an education building, administration building. We will basically see when it comes to that time. Potential future building site where we've demolished that animal housing building. And then by that time, we anticipate the need for expansion for cancer treatment and research on our campus. And one slide on the Wichita project. So President Muma shared quite a bit about this, but this is an overall site plan and then obviously partnership with Wichita State and Tech. But we are partway through schematic design, actually trying to end that here pretty soon. We are going to groundbreak on this project in May, June time of 2024 with estimated completion in October of 2026. Right now is where we sit. And then there are no updates for the Salina campus. And this is the end of the master plan presentation for KU Med. Let me know if you have any questions.
Questions for either of our presenters? Thank you guys for doing that. President Flanders.
So on the Olathe Boulevard, which is the building with the auditorium?
Student Center.
So, oh, I see. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Other Regent Dicus.
Yeah. Looking at all the presentations we've made today about deferred maintenance, the costs and everything, is there any way in the budget that we can go back to the state and ask for more than $10 million for the demolition fund? I mean, there seems to be a significant savings if you could get more of these old buildings offline going forward.
Yeah, we absolutely can, but what I would say is that those projects have to be staged. And so you may have that much need, but you only have, it's a year at a time. And so I'd want to go back to the folks on the campus and the facility people and just see what's the timeline for that. And then once we identify the building, sometimes there's, you know, there is some lag to the process. So I just want to see, I think their need is great. I'd want to see what kind of, how much can we tear down in the amount of time, I guess is all I'm saying.
And I do appreciate his comment that Regent Flanders for this. The amount is much appreciated. When we go about relocating these people, that's the tremendous expense that we have when we're putting them in existing buildings. Those buildings aren't state of the art. So the buildings that are staying, we still need to renovate those spaces. So while we have money for demolition, we still need to spend on that process.
I guess I'm thinking, how do you look forward in this, that maybe it's not this year that you have it, but if we could find out whether there's the appetite going forward, that then the universities could plan for it accordingly. Yeah, and be looking out 2, 3, 4 years in advance, for those kind of funds.
Chancellor.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna echo what AJ said, and it's true on both campuses. We we have the opportunity to get out of many buildings, but to do so, we really have to maximize the buildings that we're gonna keep and get those up to speed and to relocate. And that is a more timely process and actually costs a lot more to actually move the folks than it does tear down a building. So trying to figure, well, our challenge is trying to figure out how to do that in a timely fashion so that we can move on with this process, as you pointed out.
When you look at $10 million over 7 campuses, doesn't go very far.
Thanks, Regent Dicus. Any other questions or comments? Yep, President Flanders.
So one thing the board might look at as a part of the demo is the entire full project. So that that the swing space piece would be part of the demo project. You'd want guardrails around there. I mean, it would have to be, you'd have to show that you're moving that might be a way to be an accelerator, and we could have our team kind of put that forward and see what those numbers look like.
Thanks. Other questions or comments? All right, I don't believe any action needs to be taken. Thank you both very much. Appreciate it. It's good to look into the future. Polish off our crystal balls there. Okay, let's act on non-budgetary legislative proposals. Adam York.
Good afternoon, Regents. Before I begin, well, as I begin the report on non-budgetary legislative proposals before action, I want to take a little bit of time just to note some additions since the first read of some new items, specifically 3 new items. Starting first with the Kansas Strategic Research Fund, text is available in this packet. Essentially, this is a tool for the universities for our state to meet the needs of industry and advanced manufacturing and other clusters through a 10-year commitment, similar to the University Engineering Initiative Act, working with industry over the next 10 years to see what sectors the universities can look to accommodate. Next, starting on page for the item 2, accelerating opportunity in Kansas, starting on page 86 of your digital packet. A small addition to the item subsection 8 there for technical college, specifically delineating Washburn Institute of Technology. Sometimes in statute, the Washburn Institute of Technology or the Institute of Technology is delineated from the definition of technical college. So in addition to clarifying the intent of the $500 state stipend for all students within the Accelerating Opportunity Kansas program, we wanted to make sure to include that as well. Thirdly, an item that has text added here is the Nursing Service Scholarship Program, item 3 of your of the agenda here. The request is to amend the Nursing Service Scholarship Program to expand access for nursing students in Kansas, and the impacts relayed last month, specifically with the removal of the requirement for a student to obtain a sponsor. This program is entirely dependent on that student ability to go out and obtain the sponsor. Estimations from board office staff is essentially 80% of students who are initially deemed eligible do not take that next step of going out to find a sponsor, and therefore are not helped by this service scholarship. Some numbers from academic year 22 and 23 held about 641 initially eligible applicants in the Nursing Service Scholarship Program, led only to 129 awards. So we're looking at potentially 500 to 520 additional nurses in the workforce pipeline with the removal of the sponsorship. I would also say that for some hospitals that actively use that sponsorship, it is a good recruitment tool for them, maybe two nurses in the pipeline pre-hired at the beginning of their 2-year schooling that then are obligated to work at that hospital for the additional 2 years. Certainly that could be a concern for some of these hospitals, but I think overall looking at growing the pool of the workforce through the scholarship program is the intent. And looking at the numbers, I think certainly shows the case for making that proposal. And lastly, an additional item here is the Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center. The Kansas Law Enforcement Training Center, housed at the University of Kansas, seeks additional non-SGF funding for operations during the 2024 legislative session. This is an item that the board has acted on in the past. In 2019, the KLETC reformatted its curriculum to a competency-based curriculum. In 2021, the board acted to approve the KLETC Campus Master Fund, the Campus Master Plan, and associating with additional costs funded through court docket fees for the KLETC. The KLETC is seeking to look for additional funding to maintain the operations and purpose of providing training and accreditation to our state's law enforcement and public service operations workforce. So with that, I'll send for any questions or leave it back to the board.
Questions or comments for Adam?
And Chair Rolfe, I have a question or
Please.
maybe clarification. For the Kansas Strategic Research Fund, is that specific targeted to nursing only, or how is that structured?
Or the Nursing Service Scholarship Program?
Yeah, I mean,
Of the Kansas Strategic Research?
yes.
Yes,
Thank
that's
you.
item 1. The Kansas Strategic Research Fund would be geared towards retaining and recruiting faculty in high demand industries within the state in those service clusters.
Got
So
it.
specific examples would be advanced manufacturing, aerospace and defense, certainly medical research and healthcare, but also water, energy, engineering, artificial intelligence, certainly. And some of these clusters all talk to each other too. So
Yep.
it's not happening in a vacuum, this proposal. Other states are making significant headways. States like Arizona has 112 million in university research. Florida State has 20 million over the next 3 years invested in this sort of initiative. And I should say, since last month, the state of Texas, through a ballot initiative, approved about $3.9 billion through the Texas University Fund, serviced by interest on their state rainy day fund. So certainly, and that will impact about 3 different universities in Texas for
Thank you.
faculty.
Thank you for clarifying. Appreciate it.
Good question. Other questions? Region Ice.
I would just like to comment, I appreciate the way these build on the conversations we had at our offsite over the summer. The bigger items are all outgrowths of those conversations, as I see. Thank you.
Chair Roll.
Yes, Region Lane.
Thank you. And I want to second that. The way this has been presented has been very helpful. My question is about the last one, the Kansas Ethnic Minority Scholarship Program. We're really posing a question to our legislative colleagues on how they want to proceed. What's our strategy?
So that would be simply making sure that they are aware of the Supreme Court action on affirmative, the Supreme Court decision this summer on affirmative action. Remember, the Supreme Court did not specifically strike down student financing based on ethnicity or race, but simply making it aware. And this is a statute that the legislature in 1989 did task with the Board of Regents of administering. There's a similar program in the Ethnic Minorities Fellowship Program that has essentially been siloed for about a decade or two following an investigation from the Department of Education. So simply making it aware and seeing if they would like to address this at the current time.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments?
On that one.
Yes.
Do we have a recommendation to them? I always find it dangerous to go to them with open questions. It would be helpful, I think, if we have desired outcome that we could share with them to help, if we need them to act. And do we think we need them to act, or do mostly we just need to let them know that they don't need to act?
I can,
President Flanders.
yeah, I think that clearly the conversion, and we're looking at the proxy of this, is a first generation kind of scholarship for, students whose parents didn't graduate from college. I want to be sure that as we do that, that's doesn't introduce a complexity where you can't find that out and it's hard to award, and we don't need that. But that's really the move that I think we need to make there.
And I'd be clear, I don't believe we feel like they need to act at this point, but it is in statute. And so make sure that it's clear that it's on their side of the table and not ours. Yeah. Does that make sense? Chancellor, do you have a thought? On the
I
question?
think if our thought is we want to shift it to first gen, do we need to change statute?
Yeah, that statute will need to change. We need to get this approved and then have that conversation. But that would be one path, I think, where we could go that would make the scholarship much more sustainable over a long period of time.
We'd be asking for legislative change.
Right.
Have we decided that's what we want to do? And have we put together a strategy to accomplish that?
I guess I'm not certain we have decided this is what we want to do. Yeah, I think my perspective is that this is a statute that the legislature put in place, gave us the responsibility to award it. And we have heard upon occasion, what about that scholarship you have that you established? I think we need clarity from them if they don't think that's valid anymore, that we begin then to what the alternatives are, as opposed to letting them think it's something we put in place when it wasn't. That wasn't the case. It was statutory from the legislature.
Yeah. And so, yeah. So Chancellor, I think it's good for us to know what a backup plan would be, but I don't know that we need to put it in our advocacy that we want it changed. As we're the administrators of it. Does that make sense?
So do we think statutes in conflict with current Supreme Court ruling, or do we not? Do we think it's fine?
I guess what I have heard is that it's not in conflict directly at this point. Would anybody disagree with that?
I don't disagree with that. What I would say is it looks as if it might be moving that direction. And so I think we should have that discussion.
Any lawyers in the room disagree with me? I saw them both tense up out of the side of my eye. It's not the first time I've made lawyers tense, so. At this point, it's still not clear that this is in conflict with that. Actually specifically left out, so I think you could say it is not. Yep. Yep. And that's why I think it's important that what we're trying to say in this legislative deal is, hey, this is the legislators, this is the legislature's scholarship. We administer it. If they elect that they want to change, then I think that's when we say, well, here are alternatives, but I would not put the alternatives in this document.
And if they're okay that it continues, we'll continue to fulfill our responsibility.
Yes, President Flanders.
But you're signaling to us that if they say no, we have that flexibility to work with them, and we'll work with the legislature to, that's the signal.
Signal.
If you approve this.
I don't think we're talking in code.
No, if you approve this, then we have the flexibility to work with the legislature.
I think we always have flexibility to work with the legislature. We do that for 12 months out of the year. So I think what's important is this is scholarship we've administered, and we'd say to great success over time. It's become a subject of conversation about what that Supreme Court ruling and what that means for scholarships, certain scholarships, and that interests some people more than others. I think what's important for us is that as this issue may or may not come up, that we know where it sits. And this is in statute, it's the legislature's mandated and set up scholarship. And so if they elect to change it, I think anytime they elect to change anything that has to do with us, we work with them on that. And if there's alternatives, but I don't think it's the will of this board at this time that we advocate that it's changed. Does that make sense? And I think that's what we're trying to say clearly is we're not advocating for the change, but we understand that this may have renewed interest this next legislative session. We just want to make sure that everybody understands it's in statute. And that's where it sits right now. Does that sound clear? Yeah? Is that
I
good?
think I got it.
Okay. Anybody, Chancellor, does that answer your questions? It's good. Hey, it's good to be clear. We shouldn't resist hard conversations. And that wasn't that hard. So, all right, does the board, anybody disagree with that direction? As we've discussed before. Okay. Great. We do need to vote on this. Any other questions though for Adam? He's not a rookie anymore. He's been up here once before. Now he's back up. He's well healed. So if there anything you got, Adam? Okay, I need a motion to approve our non-budgetary legislative proposals.
So moved.
Oh,
Or second, rather. Sorry.
Okay, we got to move in a second.
Late in the day.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, number 2, with the appointment to the Johnson County Education Research Triangle Authority Board of Directors, John Yeary.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. The Johnson County Education Research Triangle Authority Board of Directors is a 7-member body. And by statute, each of those 7 members are required to be elected officials of Johnson County. So the board has one appointment to that. Currently, that individual is the mayor of Lenexa, Mike Beam. And we have been informed that he's not going to run again for mayor. So we have to have another elected official as the board appointee on that body. So page 106 of your materials as Mayor Melanie Hepperly of the city of Fairway as the proposed appointee. And there's some material there about her biographical information, her service on the city council of Fairway before she was elected mayor in 2017, and then her career as a CPA and some of her community service information. And so our recommendation is that she serve as the board's appointee, be appointed to serve as the board's appointee.
Do we have any discussion or conversation around our appointment? Okay, sir. Okay, any motion to approve?
I would so move.
Do I have a second? All right, moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you very much, John. That's the end of our agenda. Is there any other new business to come before this board at this time? All right, we'll have our holiday dinner at 6 o'clock. Want to wish everybody out there happy holidays. Pray a season of renewal for you as you begin to look at 24. Presidents and regents, as we did last year, something to expect in January will be, we will do the second day of our January meeting will be a mid-year retreat. And we will look at just where we're at on progressing with our goals that we laid out at the board retreat and do a check-in and make sure we still like where we're going if we need to make any adjustments. So we'll pull back for that at that time. So any other questions or comments? All right. And
Nice meeting.
yeah, nice meeting. And in the mortal words of Abraham Lincoln in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, party on, dudes.